I am sick and tired of the lies about this bill that have been perpetrated by opportunists who are trying to make a name for themselves. This is the most conservative bill in my lifetime.
Stephen Miller is tired of hearing about how many people do not like Trump's big, beautiful bill. And really what that means is that they don't care about how much any of us complain about the bill, whether it's people with platforms on social media who are apparently just trying to make names for themselves or ourselves. I don't know if I'm included in that statement, or just regular everyday people. They are not listening. They will not listen. They will do whatever they can do because there is no one for them to be held accountable to. And as far as accountability goes, we, the people, do not count. You would think that in a democracy that would matter. In the past, it often did. Congress people specifically, who do not have to contend with such burdensome limitations as term limits, often would or would not do or say certain things for fear that it would negatively impact their electability. That helped to hold them accountable to their constituents or to the American voters. But for some reason, they don't seem so concerned about losing their seats in Congress anymore, and they're actively voting in a bill that has widespread disapproval amongst voters, and yes, that includes Republican voters. Even Fox News couldn't deny how unpopular this bill is.
And the polls do show this. We got a whole bunch of polls that show this thing is not popular. I'm not talking about the farm part specifically. I'm talking about the Fox News poll shows that it's under 40% approval. When you look at the Quinnipiac poll, the Pew Research poll, these are all showing that few people favor this thing. 38% favor on the Fox poll. When it comes to the other ones, you can look at the Quinnipiac poll. That one has 53% opposing it. Only 27% support it. And then the Pew poll, here's the thing. A lot of Americans don't like this, even some people who voted for President Trump.
But going back to Stephen Miller, who notably is not an elected official, if you look at what it says on the screen while he's speaking, you see not Trump's name associated with this bill, but Biden's name. So while Republican congresspeople try to decide how much they care about their constituents losing healthcare and potentially dying, among other things, non-elected Republicans and right-wing media seem to be aware of how bad and unpopular this bill is because they are desperately trying to associate Joe Biden, who is not currently the president, who did not push this bill on the American people, with this bill. They want Biden's name attached to this bill, at least in their Republican voters/viewers' minds, so that when those Republican people think about how bad this bill is, when they think about how they lost their health care because of this bill, they won't think much further beyond this is all Joe Biden's fault. Maybe this is all part of the reason why these Republican Congress people do not seem so concerned about winning their re-elections. They're really banking on this bill being associated with Joe Biden, not with them, and, maybe some name recognition on their part, because we all know that American voters love an incumbent. And yes, unfortunately, I do think that their voters can and will fall for something like this. And yes, I think Republican operatives like Stephen Miller are not only aware of that, but they're counting on it. It's not all about healthcare, but that is a big part of this bill and the backlash it's receiving. And make no mistake, Republicans will absolutely be impacted by these cuts to Medicaid and also to Medicare. But let's look at some numbers. There are 53,000 or more Medicaid enrollees living in each congressional district, with enrollment as high as 510,000 in some districts. In each congressional district, there are at least 3,500 Medicaid enrollees ages 65 and older, 2,000 enrollees eligible because of a disability, 7,400 child enrollees, and 5,300 other adult enrollees. In half of all Republican congressional districts, 21% or more of the population is enrolled in Medicaid, and in half of all Democratic districts, 26% or more of the population is enrolled in Medicaid. Republican districts have a higher share of Medicaid enrollees who are children and who are eligible because of a disability, compared with Democratic districts that have a higher share of expansion enrollees and adults ages 65 and older. So going back to that Stephen Miller clip, though, On the screen, it says that the bill undoes costly and harmful Biden-era climate regulations and rules. Those climate regulations are widely supported by the American people, so I don't know why they're trying to use this as a selling point to a Fox News audience. Those regulations are the only things preventing corporations from polluting our air, water, and land more than they already have. Those regulations are the only things protecting our wildlife and natural resources. People, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, do not love corporations so much that they're willing to drink toxic drinking water so that Bezos can make some more money. The fact that Fox News is trying to spin eliminating climate protections as a good thing is laughable, and the only people who would fall for something like that are the climate deniers and people who are just not paying attention. Unfortunately, that is a chunk of the Republican constituency. And yeah, there's a reason why the Republican Party has spent so much time and money not only defending large polluting corporations, but also convincing the American public that man-made or man-accelerated climate change is a hoax. So one of the big things that the Trump administration is trying to do related to the climate and to those allegedly costly and harmful Biden-era climate regulations and rules is selling off public lands. According to a recent survey, few issues enjoy such broad bipartisan support across age groups, income levels, and regions as the protection of our national parks and public lands. Proposals to sell or transfer these lands counter both hard data and public opinion. In addition to new national polling commissioned by Trust for Public Land and conducted by YouGov, reinforces this fact. Of the 4,000 Americans surveyed, 74% oppose the closure of national public lands, and 71% oppose selling public lands to the highest bidder. And I don't need to tell you that a lot of these public lands that Trump is trying to sell off exist in Republican areas. But back to the graphic, it says that the bill cracks down on Biden's wasteful student loan debt scheme. Again, there's a reason why Republicans, whose voters are overwhelmingly dependent on programs like Medicaid, have been actively convincing their voters that social programs like Medicaid and Medicare are just communist handouts. Student loan forgiveness is, in their minds, just another handout that would be going to undeserving, lazy college graduates, which in itself makes no sense. Lazy and college graduates, those two terms do not go together. And as far as student loan forgiveness goes, the general consensus is a bit more mixed, but there is still significant support for, if not total student loan forgiveness, some student loan forgiveness. Recent Ipsos polling found 47% of Americans support forgiving up to $20,000 in federal student loan debt for Pell Grant recipients, or up to $10,000 for non-Pell Grant recipients for those that earn less than $125,000 per year or less than $250,000 for married couples. Also, 7 in 10 Americans agree that the government should prioritize making college more affordable for current and future students. Majorities across all demographics share this sentiment. In the same vein, nearly 2 in 3, or 64% of Americans, support the federal government providing 2 years of tuition-free community college for students. 84% of those with student loans support this. This is the only proposal tested that nets a majority support among all American adults. Overall, it doesn't matter if some Republicans support this bill, because a lot of them do not. It also doesn't matter what party you belong to at this point. This bill affects all Americans, and the majority of Americans, regardless of political divides, do not support this big, beautiful bill. Also, that is a dumb name for the bill. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.